My name is Ezin, and every December, I leave the chaos of Lagos to visit my uncle in the village. His name is Chibuzo, but everyone calls him Papa Neka, after my cousin, his first child. Uncle Chibuzo is a farmer, and though he doesn't own much land, his small garden is always full of life. If you know how to treat the soil will treat you well, he likes to say. This past December, something happened that none of us could have predicted. Uncle Chibuzo's main plot of land is right next to the old dirt road the villagers call 74. The road was built in 1974, back when the government promised development that never really came. Now, it's mostly overgrown and used as a shortcut for motorbikes and goats. But the land by 74 is fertile, and Uncle Chibuzo says it's his bank account. When I arrived in the village that year, Uncle greeted me with his usual wide smile and a firm handshake. Ezin, you've grown fatter. Lagos must be treating you well, he teased. Or maybe it's just the jollof rice, I joked back. He laughed, then leaned in closer. This year's harvest will surprise you. There's something special at 74. I can feel it. What kind of special, Uncle? I asked, curious. You'll see. Be ready tomorrow morning. The next day, we woke up before the sun. The air was cool, and the village was quiet except for the occasional crow of a rooster. My cousins, Neka and her younger brother, Chinedu, were already outside, carrying machetes, baskets, and a hoe. Are we going to war or harvesting cassava? I teased. Neka rolled her eyes. Big city girl, you'll see how work is done here. We walked a short distance to 74, our sandals crunching on the dirt path. The garden was as neat as ever. Rows of cassava plants stood tall, their green leaves shining with morning dew. Uncle Chibuzo stopped near the edge of the plot and pointed to a particular cassava plant. This is the one, he said, almost whispering, as if the plant could hear him. The cassava plant didn't look any different from the others. It was tall and healthy, but so were the rest. I didn't understand why Uncle was so focused on this one. He handed the hoe to Chinedu. Start digging. Be careful. Chinedu dug around the base of the plant, loosening the soil. As he walked, Uncle knelt down and used his hands to gently pull back the dirt. The rest of us stood around, watching. At first, it seemed like any other harvest. But then we saw it. The cassava root was huge, far bigger than any I had ever seen. It was thick, like the trunk of a small tree, and its white flesh peeked out from the soil. Papa, this one is the king of cassava. Neka shouted, clapping her hands. Wait, Uncle said, waving his hands. Don't rush. We don't want to break it. We all joined in, digging carefully with our hands and tools. It took nearly an hour to get the root out of the ground. By the time we pulled it free, we were sweating, our clothes covered in dirt. The cassava was enormous, almost as long as my arm and as thick as my thigh. For a moment, we just stared at it in awe. Then, as if on cue, everyone started talking at once. This thing is big enough to feed the whole village. Chinedu said, laughing. Papa, did you use juju on this one? Neka teased. Uncle Chibuzo shook his head, grinning. No juju. Just good soil and patience. Before we could leave, some neighbors passing by stopped to see what was going on. Soon, word spread, and more people came. In no time, the garden was full of villagers, all eager to catch a glimpse of the giant cassava. One old man joked, Chibuzo, you should take this to the governor. He might give you an award. Another said, or sell it at the market for a fortune. Uncle just smiled, letting everyone take their photos and make their jokes. When we finally carried the cassava back home, it was an event. My Aunt Ngozi was waiting for us, her hands on her hips. She burst into laughter when she saw the cassava. "Oh, Chibuzo, are you sure you didn't plant this one with a secret?" she asked. "No secret," he said, wiping his brow. "The land knows how to reward hard work." That evening, we cooked part of the cassava and shared it with the neighbors who had come to see it. My aunt made fufu, and we ate it with egusi soup filled with smoked fish and vegetables. The cassava was soft and sweet, and everyone agreed it was the best they'd ever tasted. As we ate, Uncle Chibuzo spoke. "Farming teaches you patience," he said. "You plant, you wait, and you pray. Sometimes, you get a big reward. But it's not just for you, it's for everyone." The next day, the story of the big cassava was all over the village. Even people who hadn't seen it came to our house, asking questions and laughing about it. Some joked that Uncle should carve a statue out of the cassava and keep it as a souvenir. It's been months since that day, but I still think about it often. The cassava itself was amazing, but what stayed with me was how it brought everyone together. In that moment, it didn't matter how big or small your garden was, or how much money you had. We were all just people, sharing food, laughter, and a little bit of wonder. Now, whenever I hear someone mention 74, I smile. It's not just a patch of land anymore, it's the place where we found the king of cassava.